Think about this for a second. Every single time you type a question into ChatGPT or ask Gemini to summarize some massive, dense report, or watch an AI literally turn a random sentence into this beautiful piece of art, one invisible underlying concept is doing absolutely all the heavy lifting. And in today's explainer, we're going to expose exactly what that is. So, what actually is this invisible engine powering modern AI? Well, understanding this one single concept is pretty much the key to everything else. Seriously, once you grasp this, the whole world of artificial intelligence stops feeling like this overwhelming pile of jargon, and things really start to click. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, we'll cover what foundation models actually are. Second, we're going to slice right through that AI jargon hierarchy. Third, the 4 stages of training. Fourth, we'll look at some real-world case studies. And finally, number 5, building your AI career. Let's dive in. All right, kicking things off with section 1. What are foundation models? To make this simple, think of a foundation model kind of like a medical student. During their first few years of training, they learn the broad strokes, right? Anatomy, biology, chemistry. Now, that broad foundation of knowledge is what allows them to later specialize, say as a cardiologist or a pediatrician, without having to start all over from scratch. In AI terms, a foundation model is one massive artificial brain. It's trained just once on a mountain of data, and then countless different applications can be built right on top of it. And you have to understand, this is a monumental shift. Back in the old days, which in tech years wasn't even that long ago, we relied on task-specific models. If you wanted a spam filter, well, you trained an AI strictly to catch spam. If you wanted it to translate languages, you had to build a totally new model from the ground up. But the new paradigm, it's build once, adapt many. You train the base really broadly, and then you just fine-tune it to filter spam, translate text, summarize emails, whatever you need. Now, you might be wondering who actually came up with this term. It isn't just some slick marketing buzzword. The name actually comes from researchers at Stanford Center for Research on Foundation Models back in 2021. They argued that these models act as a literal foundation, a base layer, just like the concrete foundation of a skyscraper supports the entire building above it. This one, shared, adaptable base literally changed how AI gets built. Moving right along to section 2. The AI jargon hierarchy. You know, terms like GPT, LLM, and generative AI get thrown around all the time, often like they mean the exact same thing. It can be super confusing, which brings us to a really common question. Are all LLMs foundation models? Let's map this out clearly. At the very top, you've got the big umbrella term, generative AI. That's the broad field of AI that creates new content. Directly beneath that, acting as the engine running the whole show, is the foundation model. And then, nestled right inside of that is the LLM, or large language model. So, to answer the question, yes, an LLM absolutely is a foundation model, but it's one that specializes entirely in text and language. It really helps to group these giant, famous AI models by what they're actually best at. Language models like OpenAI's GPT and Anthropic's Claude are your text specialists. Then you have multimodal models like Google's Gemini, which combine senses so they can understand text and images at the exact same time. And finally, diffusion models like Stable Diffusion, which are built specifically to generate those stunning, completely original images just from your text prompts. All right, on to section 3, the 4 stages of training. I like to think of this as the hero's journey of an AI model. Step 1 is pre-training. This is where it teaches itself broad patterns by basically reading enormous amounts of data from the internet. Step 2 is adaptation, where it takes that broad knowledge and starts applying it to specific tasks. Step 3 is fine-tuning, which uses actual human feedback to polish the model into a safe, helpful assistant. And finally, step 4 is deployment. That's where it answers your real-world prompts, which is a process known in the industry as inference. Now, a foundation model doesn't just magically know your company's private internal data. But that's where RAG, or Retrieval-Augmented Generation, comes into play. It's an absolute game changer. It basically lets the AI look up relevant information from your specific private documents before it even formulates an answer, which dramatically reduces errors. Next up in our quick jargon-busting tour is prompt engineering. You see, sometimes you don't need to retrain a massive model at all. You just need to get way better at asking it questions. Prompt engineering is the highly valuable skill of writing precise instructions to extract the absolute best results from a foundation model without ever altering its code. It is currently one of the most in-demand, lowest barrier skills in the entire tech world. And here are 3 other terms you're going to see everywhere. Tokens, those are simply the small chunks of text a model reads. Parameters, think of those as the internal settings the model learned during that massive pre-training phase. And the context window is just how much text the model can consider at one single time. Master these, and you can confidently speak the exact same language as AI professionals.
Let's get into Section 4, Real-World Case Studies.
When you stop and think about it, it's pretty amazing how the exact same core technology powers wildly different tools in our daily lives. ChatGPT is a foundation model heavily fine-tuned for conversation. Google's BERT, it operates invisibly every day to understand your search intents. Stable Diffusion generates those dreamy, misty watercolor forests. And Enterprise RAG powers internal support bots that actually understand complex company policies.
But if you're going to start working with these models, you need to know a few best practices. First off, don't just assume a bigger model is always better. A smaller, highly fine-tuned model will often crush a giant general one for very specific tasks. Second, and this is super critical, beware of hallucinations. These models can sound incredibly confident while delivering completely false information, so verification is everything. And finally, don't skip the fundamentals. Really master prompting before you try jumping into fine-tuning models yourself.
All right, our final section, number 5, building your AI career. Mastering this whole hierarchy we just walked through, it is basically the ultimate cheat code for accelerating your tech career right now. Nearly every generative AI job today is built directly on top of foundation models. Employers are desperately hiring for generative AI engineers, prompt engineers, LLM engineers, and application developers. Knowing how tokens, RAG, and fine-tuning actually work maps directly to the skills that are commanding really high salaries. And this demand is highly concentrated in booming tech corridors. Just to give you an example, tech hubs in India, specifically areas in Hyderabad like High Tech City and Gachibowli, are absolutely exploding with AI job opportunities. But remember, the transition from merely knowing about these models to actually building with them professionally happens the fastest when you engage in structured training with real, hands-on projects. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. You now understand the invisible engine. You know that one broad model can be reshaped for countless incredible tasks. You know the jargon, you know the stages of training, and you see the massive career opportunities waiting out there. The foundation is solidly built, so the only question left is, what are you going to build on top of it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today. I highly encourage you to get out there, start experimenting, and start building.